Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are delighted and so very honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Podcast Addict, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Barbara Newman. She is here to celebrate the Dream Catcher Codes. Before we invite Barbara into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the Paw Patrol Experience. That's right, the Paw Patrol Experience is landing at camp in the Burlington Mall in Burlington, Massachusetts. Camp in the Burlington Mall is their new Boston area location. Suit up, campers, and join the bravest pack of pups around for an immersive, one-of-a-kind experience where no job is too big and no pup is too small. The experience opens February 3rd. That means it's already open. Tickets are available for purchase now at camp.com/Paw Patrol. And if you would like a chance to win a family pack of tickets, if you're here in the Boston area, go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button at the top of the page, and tell me why your family would like to go to the Paw Patrol Experience at camp in the Burlington Mall. Joining us right now from the beautiful state of Massachusetts, our guest today is here to celebrate an environmental fantasy, a young adult novel that kids of all ages are enjoying. Please welcome to the show, Barbara Newman. Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm just great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am wonderful. It's so great to have a neighbor on the podcast. Although a lot of people here in Boston think that anything west of the Charles River is like the West Coast. So you're in the western part of the state.
I'm in the west coast of Massachusetts. I'm in the Berkshires.
What a beautiful, beautiful part of the world that is.
Oh, it is. I am blessed every day. I wake up and I am in the most beautiful, I'm immersed in nature everywhere, all kinds of nature. So I was really, really thrilled to have been able to raise my children here. They had a great dose of culture, but also curiosity that comes from being outside.
Yeah. That's the thing, I don't think people quite, and I know as I travel around, I'm amazed at how big the rest of the country is. And I'm amazed, for example, the first time I toured Florida, I was scheduled to be in Jacksonville one day and Miami the next day, and I had no idea that it was 400 or 500 miles apart. Here in New England, in Boston, growing up in a metropolitan area like Boston, it's beautiful and it's very, it's a big, big city, but just an hour and a half away, you have the Berkshires, and go, an hour the opposite direction, and you have Cape Cod, and to the north you have Maine and New Hampshire, and it's just an amazing part of the world.
It really is. It's a beautiful part of the world. And in fact, my story, I do have a very important scene that takes place in Maine. So in this book, you talk about this country being so big and so beautiful. There are so many. I explored the country in order to write this book, to learn about the land. I had to experience the different landscapes. So a lot of this book takes place in the West, in the Southwest, in Arizona, in New Mexico, in Wyoming, in Montana, in Denali, in Alaska. So, and Jacksonville, actually. There's a scene in Jacksonville. These are all the compass points where these 4 girls go in search of a very important artifact that will ultimately save the planet.
So let's dive into it. Who are we going to meet in the Dream Catcher's Code?
Okay. That's a great question. Nobody has asked me that question. Who are we going to meet? This is a story, an epic story about 4 girls coming together from the 4 directions. They are in search of a stolen piece of an ancient crystal that was snatched by a giant raven in a raging storm. And this crystal holds the codes of nature, ancient symbols from all different cultures, all over the world, from the cosmos, from Egyptian, from Hebrew. I mean, it's really everything. It's all of the indigenous wisdom. And when this crystal horseshoe breaks, the codes get a little bit messed up. So, and one of them drops and is stolen, and these girls come together. They love nature. One girl is, and they're powered by the elements from the 4 directions: earth, air, fire, water, which of course is all a part of nature. So in order to save, to find this, they have to tap into the deepest parts of themselves. And they grow as girls. These are, this story is about building cultural bridges. It's about, sisterhood. Nobody can do this alone. And I think the power of sisterhood is very, very important for this. And it's sort of like, if you look at, I know young girls love the series, The Babysitter's Club, so that they got that camaraderie and they're all working together to create a business in that sense. But here they're all working together because they love their precious earth and they know that we are in trouble. I mean, we are in trouble, but it's a hopeful story. Yeah. It's a very, very hopeful story. And so it ends, of course, on a good note. It is not dystopian. I didn't want to do that. I think my greatest desire and hope is that my readers will see the natural world through new and wondrous eyes. Cool. And fall in love with Mother Earth so that they're inspired to protect her.
That's one of the things that our ongoing series of special episodes, Protecting the Planet with Your Kids, is all about. Helping, just realizing that in order to protect the planet, we need to fall in love with the planet. And there's so many kids these days, and adults too, that, they live in cities and they're surrounded by brick and concrete and glass and steel, and they don't have, and technology, and they don't have a chance to get out there and sit underneath a tree. Feel the grass beneath their bare feet. Be on the ocean.
It's really very true. I mean, we're such a digital world right now. And I think it's so important for kids to get outside and to really understand that, we are not separate from the earth. We're all this one big, we're a human, ecosystem. We're a plant ecosystem. We're a animal ecosystem. We're all here together on this earth. And I feel that, when I go outside, I can really hear the messages if I listen for them. And a big part of this book, I think, teaches kids to do that. There might be a message in the wind. There might be, they talk about now how trees communicate. It's science. There's a lot of science in this book, but it reads like adventure. So they don't know that they're learning, but they are. And that was also really important for me. I didn't want to be a preachy kind of a writer in that way for this particular book.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We are learning so much about our world and you're talking about how important it is to get out into nature, to fall in love with nature, and that we're all connected. I mean, if nothing, the pandemic is a great reminder that we need to, that being outside and being in the sun is a great way to keep ourselves healthy.
It really is. And also it brings joy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's this, you know, it's joyful to be outdoors. I mean, it really brings a sense of, I think, connection to oneself and to really what's here. Open our eyes to what's here. And there is so much. I mean, I had to travel to write this book because how could I really talk about Mother Nature and, you know, if I haven't experienced all the different, you know, or many different aspects, right? And so much of it takes place in the Southwest. And I went out to New Mexico. I started writing the book in New Mexico, and I went on these solo hikes. And, you know, it was interesting because I was at Ghost Ranch in New Mexico, which is where Georgia O'Keeffe painted. Beautiful, beautiful red rocks and wonderful mountains made of stone. It's just very breathtaking. Out there for me anyway. Mm-hmm. It's sort of one of my heart homes now. Excuse me. And I remember wanting to really climb this mountain. I had to really push myself out of my comfort zone because these girls, these characters, push themselves out of their comfort zones. So I went to this mountain and it was a very big challenge for me. Mm-hmm. I took 4 Advil before I went. And I looked up at this monolith. I looked up at it and it called to me. It spoke to me. And I said to myself, Barb, how are you going to do this? And I looked down at my feet. I looked down at the trailhead and there is a little ant with hundreds I don't know what was on its back, but so much weight on its back. I don't know. They say 100 times, 200 times they can carry more than they weigh. And this little creature was making its way up the red clay. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And I stopped and I said, thank you. That's a message. That's a message about perseverance. That's a message, you know, if this little ant can do it, I can do this too. And it really inspired me. That made it in the book. Mm. So a lot of animal medicine is in this book and plant medicine, you know, like yarrow for the sprains, that they get hurt. Sometimes they get hurt. Sometimes they don't listen to each other. They have to navigate, you know, not just the natural world, but they now have to navigate their relationships and who's going to be the leader and who's going to hold back that day. How are they going to support one another? And it's really a beautiful unfolding of friendship and sisterhood and common purpose. And I think that's what really drives the story. Is a shared purpose for humanity.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. One of the things I've heard people refer to you as a climate optimist. How are you a climate optimist when all around us we're hearing nothing but doomsday? The world is going to end in 12 years. We have to act now. There's no hope for us. How do you stay positive?
If I didn't stay positive, I couldn't do the things that I needed to do. Mm-hmm. I couldn't, you know, I just think being positive lifts us up. It raises us up. Now, I'm not, you know, I read and I understand the science and I know that we're in trouble, but can you imagine being a young person growing up right now and hearing all the negativity? I don't think so. Not for me. Mm-hmm. Not for me. I want, oh my gosh, we can do something. Yes, we can. We can do, if everybody did a little something, they would feel better about growing into doing the bigger things. And so I just feel that, for my life, the way I live my life, I try to be optimistic. I think, I live in gratitude. So right now I'm looking at the gratitude that is out there for us to take into our hearts, that's important to me.
Yeah.
Important to me.
One of the things that you were sharing with me before we started recording is that this is a young adult title. However, you're hearing that there are lots of younger kids that are enjoying reading this book with their parents.
Yes. I've been hearing that a lot. It's a little bit there's some pretty sophisticated concepts in here. I mean, there is a little bit about the feminine rising and the female principle, the feminine principle. There are things that mothers are saying, I don't know. I love this book, but I don't know if my daughter's going to get it yet. So let me read it with her, or let me wait a year. But for me to hear that mothers are reading it with their daughters makes me very happy, because reading time with children is precious. It's very precious. It's beautiful shared time, and, opens conversations and connection, and it's special. I miss it. My kids are out of the house, so I really miss that.
What kind of conversations do you think, or do you envision daughters and moms having as they're reading this or co-reading this?
Great question. I think, one of my characters is Lakota. And so she comes from a different background. I just want to preface this by saying that this book had many sensitivity readers and many guides and a lot of guidance from the Native American community. So I feel really, I was a little bit worried at first, but no, I felt like I could tell the story. And I have a deep connection to the indigenous practices. So I felt very, very good about bringing in a character that was indigenous. My other character is from New York. She's biracial. She was raised Jewish. I was raised Jewish. I'm from New York. That character is based on my daughter, who will have biracial children. So there's a big theme of diversity and multicultural. I have an adopted one. My girl from the West is Yue. She's Chinese. Her name means moon. She is of the water. She gets her power from the water. My daughter-in-law is adopted. So we had many, many conversations about what it's like growing up as an adopted child. So I think that children can see a little bit of everyone in here. They can see themselves in all of these characters. And there was I will touch upon certain things like, a culture, I want to build cultural bridges with this book. And it has already won awards for multicultural fiction, which make me so, so happy. And what's important, there's a conversation, and this really happened to me, when I was talking with an indigenous woman, a Lakota woman, who's a dear friend of mine. And I was noticing in this trading post that she has in New Mexico, the Nambe trading post, that there was a particular Navajo symbol that looks like a swastika. And when I saw it, I was really taken aback. I was very upset. And she said, "Oh, that's the whirling log. That is the Navajo creation story, and it's all about energy and how these logs move down in the river." And so I don't go into that particular thing in this book. I didn't feel that it was necessary, but I do talk about the Trail of Tears. I mention it. I talk about a young girl's, my girl from New Mexico, is her family immigrated from Mexico years and years ago. And she has her great aunt Rosa's guitar, which has a 7th string, which is magical and is a very big part of the book. It's almost its own character. And then, of course, the girl from New York, she doesn't quite know where she belongs. You know, who am I? I mean, I think all girls are asking themselves that. Well, I'm still asking myself that question as I grow into becoming. You're always becoming in life. We're becoming and becoming and becoming. But I felt that there is a conversation between two girls about genocide, you know, about Native American genocide and about the Holocaust. It's a tiny 2-sentence piece, because I didn't want to go into depth, but it's there. And it's there to maybe have a discussion about and to maybe think about and say, okay, I understand. So there is that shared thread of connection, as I call it, between all of the girls. So I think there's that. I think we can talk about, I mentioned Standing Rock. I mentioned fracking, pieces here and there, but it's an adventure story and it's a lot of fun. And these girls are on flying horses that have manes made out of the golden eagle feather. And there's magic and mysticism and mythology. And like, for example, one of my characters, they're in a cave and there are all of these petroglyphs. And she's like, oh, it's like the first graphic novel. You know, so they're like little references here and there, but no, those are ancient drawings and they exist, you know, they really do exist and they tell stories.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious that this would be a great book for mother and daughter to read together. But what about the guys? Do you think that this is a book that young guys would enjoy reading with their parents? Do you think it's a book that a young girl would enjoy reading with her dad?
That I think is yes. I think a father-daughter reading this book together would be fantastic. I really do. I don't know about a boy picking up this book. Could, maybe, but I think that, I think this is a girl's story. I think this is a girl empowerment story for girls to find their voices and their vital place in the world. And, they do it through raising each other up and opening their eyes to the possibility of what can be. Well,
I love that. We should all be helping raise each other up to see what can be.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and I call this book, I call this book, my love letter to Mother Earth and all of her daughters.
Wonderful. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the Dreamcatcher codes and find out more about you.
My website is BarbaraNewmanAuthor.com, Newman, Barbara Newman Author, and all of my social is on there on my website. I have Twitter, which is where I found you. And I have Facebook, of course, and Instagram, and those are my platforms. But hopefully, I mean, I would love more than anything. I really want to come to the New England Aquarium and do a reading there because they have there is a scene in the book. Of course, UA is about the water, and she is propelled to action because she sees a dead whale on the beach. Her mom had been a marine biologist, so she learned about the ocean from a very young age. And, you know, in order for her to calm herself in these situations that she finds herself in on this quest, this magical quest, she goes into the ocean and she talks about the ocean and the depths. And, you know, there's even like this scene with a pufferfish at the bottom of the ocean. And I saw this on PBS and I knew I had to get it into the book. Makes this mandala. It moves and it makes a mandala at the bottom of the sea so that the female can lay the eggs and the currents won't push them out. And so there is science in the book, right? And so I thought, oh, an aquarium. I have so many great readings. That would be wonderful to do a reading at the aquarium.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you, and hopefully
Thank you.
That will happen. And in the meantime, we want to encourage everybody to check out the Dreamcatcher Codes, a great young adult title from our guest, Barbara Newman. Hey, Barbara, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Candace Oken. Candace will be returning to the show to celebrate Joseph the Great, her latest children's book. Hey, if you are on social media, we would love to connect with you. There's so many places you can connect with us. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Of course, you can go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, sign up for our free newsletter. You can also use the Contact Us button at the top of the page to send us a message. And of course, if you're in the Boston area or will be anywhere in the Boston area during the month of February and you want to win the family pack of tickets for the Paw Patrol Experience at camp in the Burlington Mall, go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on that contact button, and tell me why your family should win. That's as easy as it gets. Yeah, just do it. We love it. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Barbara Newman. Please be sure to check out the Dreamcatcher Codes. Also want to thank our sponsor, the Paw Patrol Experience, live now in February 2022 at the Burlington Mall, at camp at the Burlington Mall in Burlington, Massachusetts. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.